April 13, 1612. On a small island off the coast of Japan, two men prepare to draw steel. This is Ganryujima, the site of the most highly anticipated duel in Japanese history between Miyamoto Musashi and his legendary rival Sasaki Kojiro. To capture the gravity of this exact encounter, Japan's preeminent manga artist, Takehiko Inoue, spent 17 years meticulously charting the path to the beach. Across 327 chapters, he poured his life into rendering every cut and consequence of the journey. And then, right at the precipice of the climax, he stopped. In 2015, Inoue put his pen down and walked away, leaving the most celebrated samurai manga in existence permanently unresolved. To understand why the ink dried up, we have to look back to the beginning. Before he was a legend, Musashi was simply Takezo, a 17-year-old boy limping away from the devastating Battle of Sekigahara with a profound trauma. He emerges from the bodies with a single, feral ambition. He decides the only way to survive a hostile world is to become invincible under the heavens. He sets out to cut down every renowned swordsman in the country until no one is left to challenge him. But as Musashi swings his blade, an unintended parallel forms. The creator and the protagonist find themselves trapped in the exact same cycle. Both are burning through their physical and mental limits in an uncompromising pursuit of perfection. They are locked in an obsession that demands everything. For Musashi, achieving invincibility means sacrificing any hope of a normal life. For Inoue, drawing that violent path requires a level of psychological immersion that slowly breaks him down. Musashi crisscrosses the country, leaving a trail of defeated masters in his wake. Yet, with every victory, the world feels colder. He gains a reputation, but the violence isolates him from human connection. The strength he seeks leaves him increasingly empty. The foil to his deep anxiety arrives in the form of his destined rival, Sasaki Kojiro. Kojiro has been deaf since birth. He has no formal master, and he has never heard the name Miyamoto Musashi. He learns to fight by watching the flight of sparrows and the movement of water. Without the distraction of spoken language or ego, Kojiro experiences the world entirely through physical intuition. He arrives at extraordinary martial genius simply by reacting honestly to his environment. Musashi relies on relentless, white-knuckle effort to force his will upon his opponents. Kojiro, meanwhile, exists in a state of absolute peace. His movements are an effortless extension of the natural world. Kojiro is walking proof that mastery does not require cruelty. His existence directly challenges the core assumption of Musashi's life, forcing the swordsman to wonder if his violent path has been a terrible mistake. That mistake reaches its horrific conclusion during his conflict with the Yoshioka clan. In the ancient capital, Musashi is cornered by an elite swordsmanship school, trapping him in an extended battle for his life. He survives, but survival requires slaughter. He cuts down dozens of men in a muddy field. He severs limbs, tears through bodies, and ultimately kills the clan's figurehead, a terrified child. As the narrative descends into this nightmare, Inoue's technique visibly struggles under the weight of the subject matter. He discards conventional pens, turning to heavy sumi-e ink washes and thick, exhausting brushstrokes that bleed across the page to match the psychological collapse. When the blood finally settles, Musashi stands alone. He has defeated the largest school in Japan. He is entirely unchallenged. But standing in the field, he realizes there is very little human left inside him. There is no glory in the victory. The story strips the samurai archetype of all its honor, leaving only the sickening reality of a young man who used his exceptional talent to end lives. Broken by his own success, Musashi puts his swords away. He wanders into a destitute farming village, plagued by harsh terrain, and starves alongside the locals. He decides to stay and cultivate a patch of dead soil. It is agonizing, unglamorous labor. He digs in the mud, reroutes water, and waits. For the first time, his physical exertion cannot force a result. The earth is completely indifferent to his martial prowess. It cannot be intimidated or defeated. It only yields crops when met with gentle, persistent, and entirely selfless care. Through the rhythm of the harvest, he unlearns the sword. He discovers that real strength is not the capacity to exert dominance, but the willingness to accept your limitations in order to nurture life. Which brings us back to the silence of 2015. After drawing Musashi's spiritual rebirth, Takehiko Inoue was supposed to march his enlightened protagonist all the way to the beach at Ganryujima to finally kill Kojiro. The path of Musashi's violent victories ultimately clashed with Inoue's fading will to draw violence in 2015. Forcing a fatal confrontation felt like a betrayal. By allowing the narrative to settle into peace, it mirrors the historical Musashi. The real swordsman spent his twilight years far from the battlefield, retreating to a quiet cave to devote himself to painting, philosophy, and meditation. The historical figure eventually recognized that the journey had taught him all he needed to know, and he laid down his weapons. By stepping away from the drafting table, Inoue essentially made the exact same choice. Vagabond doesn't lack an ending. The hiatus is the ending. It is a story that proves true strength is knowing exactly when to walk away from the fight. Leaving the characters on the road, alive and at peace, is the most honest conclusion they could have ever asked for.